So, what might be on the AQA exam this summer? I've been thinking about topics that haven't been tested in a while, and also things that have been in the news, to try and get some idea of the sorts of questions that might be on the papers come June. Before we get going, remember that although this exercise is useful, it's important that you revise thoroughly and widely across the entire specification. So, turning to hot topics for Paper 1 Micro, there are very few concepts left that haven't been tested at all on Paper 1 since the current specification was first examined in 2017. But the law of diminishing returns is one, so it wouldn't be surprising to see that feature, probably in a 9 or 15 mark question. Beyond that, we look towards topics that haven't been tested for quite a while, such as technological change, which is also topical because of AI. Could this provide the context for a question, perhaps? Profit and the objectives of firms also seem due. I've got a hunch on the water industry. It's been so much in the news because of water firms dumping raw sewage into rivers and because of financial problems, especially at Thames Water. It also brings in monopoly, which seems due to be tested, as well as regulation. This means that it's a bit of a sweet spot, but maybe too hard for examiners to resist. And if it's not there on Paper 1, don't be surprised if it pops up on Paper 3, because it would make a great topic for an extended case study. The labour markets and distribution of income and wealth section of the specification usually provides at least one of the 5 questions on the paper, sometimes more. The national living wage, or minimum wage, seems due to be tested, as does wealth, which unfortunately is an area of the specification which students tend to find more difficult. If the examiners were to return to the concept of poverty, child poverty seems a likely area, given that other types of poverty, such as working poverty, have already been covered. Moving on to macro, the hot topics get harder to pick out. It's easier for examiners to cover the whole specification in macro, because the topics are so interlinked. So there's very little at all that hasn't been tested within the last few years. This said, the determinants of a level of investment as a component of AD is one topic that hasn't come up, and the UK's poor investment record and apparent slowing of trend growth make this a possible area, despite some overlaps with productivity, which was tested last year. Inflation wasn't tested in 2024, which was the first available series when the examiners could have drawn upon material from the cost of living crisis. The 2025 exam lends itself to questions about what caused the UK's inflation rate to get out of control and evaluating policy to bring inflation back under control. Something about the use of interest rates and how effective they are in tackling inflation seems likely. Turning to international economics, the difference between economic growth and economic development seems due for testing, while the role of aid in promoting development could well feature for the first time. Recent years have seen questions from a trade topic about globalization and deglobalization, but little explicitly about comparative advantage theory, which forms the basis of the economic case for international trade. Finally, the UK's attempts to negotiate new trade deals after Brexit also seem to me a likely area for exam questions. So, we've now got an idea of the topics that seem most likely to be tested, and Economics Factory is on hand to help you prepare. Each year we publish a series of brand new exam papers on the topics that seem most due to be examined. You can buy them by scanning the QR code on screen now. We've got a proud track record of success with these, with an impressive number of topic matches each year. Watch on to see how we did in 2024. This spring, I'm also making available a small number of slots for tuition. Feel free to use the contact form at www.economicsfactory.com to inquire about these, or scan the QR code if you'd like to join my online class for preparing for the AQA exam this summer. This class is significantly cheaper than individual tuition. Turning back to our papers on due topics, we identified 6 topics correctly in 2024. You may wish to hit the pause button now and compare the questions we asked to those asked on the actual paper. Students who followed our hunches on asymmetric information as a cause of market failure and on behavioural policies would have been especially delighted, as this would have given them the 15-mark and 25-mark parts of the same essay question. In fact, we were on the money with 3 out of 5 25-mark questions, including the one about price discrimination. Looking at macro, we also achieved close matches on 6 topics last year. We hit the mark with the natural rate of unemployment particularly, as well as recessions and the economic effects of raising taxes. So remember our exam papers on due topics. We've got 2 new micro papers and 2 new macro papers. That's 4 papers full of questions you've never seen before, but on the topics that are most likely to be examined this summer. They come with really detailed mark schemes too, so that will give you a good idea of whether the content you've written is along the right lines. Just remember though my earlier warning, it's really important that you do revise thoroughly across the entire specification. We can think about the questions that are most likely to come up, but we can never know the questions that are going to come up. So the only way to be sure going into your exam is to make sure that you're on top of everything. Don't leave any gaps that might lead to you getting less than the mark that you deserve. As you can see, Economics Factory has got a number of other resources to help you prepare for the summer. Probably our top resource is our model answer collections. So for AQA, we've got an answer to every single current specification past paper question. And you can buy those by the pack, by the paper, or the answer to a particular question. And if you just scan the QR code on your screen now, that will take you to where you need to be. We've got topic trackers as well, so you can find out which topics have been examined when in the past and find out where to go to if you want to buy a model answer to a question on a particular topic. That will help guide you. And our revision guides as well. They give you pretty much everything you need to know for the exam in an incredibly clear and concise format. So thanks for taking the time to watch the video. Wish you huge good luck for your exams this summer. And I hope Economics Factory can support you along the way.